Before I go into the boring research parts of this segment here, I just wanted to show off these Criss Optical frames uh, before I go into the article part of it. It's worth noting that this screw here, I'll talk about it a little bit more, is missing the top, whoops, but not the bottom underneath right there. So again, it's just broken at the top there. But besides that, there you go, your glossy nylon molded frames. So I just need these for the actual research part of this. So these eyeglasses are made from a nylon, as I said, along with the sort of acetate of Ray-Bans. Both these materials are going to last a lot longer than your typical $10 store frames that I've found that easily fracture. Most of these cheaper eyeglasses you'll find on store shelves are made of like a Xyl or Zyl, short for xylonite, which is a type of plastic. This is likely where I've seen that often individuals will recommend metal frames for durability since the plastic alternatives snap in such a pinch. So again, there's your xylonite right there. I think it's also worth noting, I'll show you here, that in comparison to snapping, there's been people that have said that you can bend this thing into a pretzel shape, but you can easily bend this plastic pretty well. Now, even though those are my only frames, I definitely don't want to try breaking them, but they're definitely an extremely moldable pair of material there without snapping. So I mean, definitely compared to some form of a metal, I think it'll stand the test of time. And note that if you are searching for a metal, I would recommend like a spring steel or titanium, even though not all designs advertising these higher functioning materials are entirely durably made. Just because a lot of it, like I've seen titanium frames that use really weak pieces that hold onto the bridge of your nose, where like the silicone is, that'll hold it. A lot of those parts will snap easily. And really, in comparison, I've found that plastics can be made for much cheaper, but still give you, the same relative level of durability. I mean, something like these have lasted me 5 years, and other than that screw, which I can't knock out, there's nothing wrong with them. So, often though, the cheaper metal frames are composed of like coppers and nickel alloys, and they most often are yielded in a material called monol. I believe that's how it's pronounced. For anyone interested, I'll include an article listing many eyewear materials used, as you can see here, for those that want to look more. So, on the mention of Ray-Bans, though, as well, expect to pay a premium price for them. While I paid like 30, excuse me, US dollars for the Criss Optical, I see most Ray-Bans and Oakleys now in the $80 to $150 range. And it's also worth noting that these, famous brands name frames, once costed significantly less. So now, again, you're talking about $30. What might have been $30 20 years ago before they were bought out, is now somewhere in the $150 range. So both Ray-Bans and Oakleys, the latter of which was made in the United States at the time of its buyout, are now owned by the brands named Luxottica. That's why I'm sort of pushing these brands together. This company has come under fire for having claims of owning up to 80% of the eyewear market. And while there is criticism to this claim, like, to be honest, I mean, this Forbes article was written in 2014, and I think it even referenced like another article of itself from 2012, if I'm correct. But so here's one that shows the brands. But the point being, like, even though it might not be 80% of the eyewear market, I think that's a bit extreme. That certainly they own a very significant amount of brands. But so regardless, I believe it gets at the point though of needing alternative eyewear options, because this price to be paid for well-made Italian eyeglasses that the Luxottica brand is a fortune, in which the cost can be deduced in some cases by at least half the price. Believing this claim or not, as organic monopolies are often rare without some form of government assistance. Luxottica definitely has a corner in their niche of buyouts to charge outrageous prices for past favorite brand names. And so, I'll often see this claim made that, like, something like Red Wings, are the best brand of footwear. Well, and they might have been arguably the best brand of footwear if you have one of those, like, 20, 30-year-old brand, versions before they were made in, like, China or overseas. But that definitely is not the case as, like, a work boot today. The only way you can get, like, made in America Red Wings at the moment is if you buy their heritage brand, which is more like, for appearances and contrasts. So, so the fact is that you still have this brand name being bought. People are still saying it's the best, but you have to pay that outrageous price for it. So anyways, I'll include a link in the sources of all these eyewear companies that Luxottica owns for the curious, but I think it still gets at that point that you need alternatives out there. My biggest complaint with these lies in the materials used of the Criss Optical, though. It's glossy, and like glossy surfaces, it shows every bit of debris touching the surface. It seems to attract it, so everything from like smudges of the finger to like some flake of skin. It shows very well, and it's a smooth material, and like any other glossy material, plastic, it becomes greasy if you do not clean it daily or simply take it in the shower with you. This is an important accessory too, since it may prevent you from any rapists prying eyes. As you can see the picture of the eyeglasses here. Here's the one on the right if you can't see it better. So there you go. Anyways, so it may prevent you from rapists prying eyes because of its highly fashionable appearances. The other major issue I have with these and all thick-rimmed eyewear is in the density that it puts behind your earlobes. Unless you are using earbuds or in-ear monitors, which are typically, especially earbuds, are like cheaper headphones, both on-ear and over-ear headphones can cause excess pressure while wearing them, promoting the chance of like a headache. Added for an over-ear pair of headphones, the tiny gap of air that's added by the depth of these glasses, like arms, I guess is what you would call them, distorts a headphone's seal. So those are my two problems, the sort of smudges, the glossy plastic nylon, and the headphone problems. I have owned these roughly 5 years, and as long as I've paid any attention, the left hinge screw, as I showed earlier, has been split and removed. There is still this lower piece that's lodged in there, and I've been unable to remove it by even like trying to force the second screw with a cheapo eyeglass replacement kit. So I'd probably need like one of their higher quality steels to try and just screw the bottom of that out. On one hand, this has the advantage that a half screw has ultimately held the frame together for its lifespan of 5 years. And again, it's not like it's going bad or anything. However, I believe I have worn a crooked pair of frames for the past 5 years as a result. And I really have no idea how the screw was dismembered, but it happened within the first like month or so of owning it. So just because the arm is teeter-tottering with the front of the frame, it's been crooked, and it's not something I can easily adjust. Ultimately, Criss is a tiny company. It's still making eyewear for the military somewhere in Wichita, Kansas. I believe the goggles that you saw earlier specifically are what the military prescribes. So if you need to up your prescription on birth control glasses, these are definitely the cheap remedy to acquire. I'm personally going to give them a 3 out of 5 stars for meeting the need of an ultra-durable niche and an alternative to other prohibitively expensive mainstream market eaters. The material is glossy and may have some quality control issues, as I saw with the screw. It's not approved for any style conscious or any season, but at least they will last. And note that it is definitely past time, and I believe worth your investment to discover other alternatives with a lower price tag and a higher quality material to what has been a lackluster modernization in the eyeglasses market. The Criss Optical frames are just a type of eyewear and material that have stood the test of time. So, I mean, like, while you have, modernization in terms of, titanium frames, um, and you have other types of nylon frames too that can be made much thinner and just as flexible and durable as these. This type of frame, I believe, has been around for at least 50 years. I know this basketball player played in like the 80s, so it's definitely an older form of a nylon material, and so even though it has that durability, it still has problems because it requires a certain level of thickness to be made, and certainly, it's not like the styles are the most fashion conscious either, if that's important to you. So, on that note, these are an option if you want ultra durability, and make sure to look for other options in the future, or invest in them if you think that there's a good alternative, because certainly I'm not paying $150 for a pair of glasses unless it's literally heirloom and it'll last me the rest of my life without losing it. But at that point I would need a tracking detector. Cheers.